So just gently soften your knees, let your body sink into your hips, just lubricating these joints. As you're coming up, try to first bend the knees and then come up through the hips and back. We really want to emphasize strengthening and lengthening at the same time the hamstrings and the hips. Slow down your breath. Don't control your breath, just slow it down. And as your body is getting warmer, see if you can challenge yourself a little bit and sink in deeper. Now I'm resting and I'm just creating a nice traction on the hamstrings, the back of the knees, the glutes, the hips, and I'm letting my head just hang from the spine. Really feeling every single vertebra down your spine, opening, lengthening. Keep breathing. This might be challenging to allow the breath to be natural. And when I'm feeling a little bit tired, I'm just going to go up a little bit and down, sort of exploring all the articulations of my vertebra as I'm stretching forward and as my hips and hamstrings are stretched. And coming up, widening your stance a little bit. Now that you're warmed up, try to challenge yourself a little bit, still be in your comfort zone. Sink into the squat and then try to first lengthen the hamstrings and the knees, and then come up through the back and spine. Again, we're just challenging the hamstrings and the knees to lengthen while they're being stretched. And now that I'm really warmed up, I'm really going to try to challenge myself by squatting down as much as possible, but still be comfortable. Don't hurt yourself. And I'm going to rest. Let my head hang down from the spine. And breathe in as I oscillate my spine, explore the articulations. And again, oscillating the spine, breathing into it. Focus on your breathing and come up. And one last time. And the third time here, don't go all the way down. Just squat gently, sinking into your level of comfort. You want to give your body a nice memory of what's possible through the pathways of relaxation and comfort. Squatting down and lengthening the hips and the hamstrings. Squatting down, breathing, lengthening the hips and the hamstrings. And one more time, resting, oscillating the spine while sinking in back into your sit bones. Exploring, where do you feel in your spine? Is there a tugging that you can stretch and breathe into? And coming up. Now take a small step forward, hands on your hips if you want, and sinking forward and back into your hips. Find that area that you find the restriction. Be at the gate of discomfort. Don't go through it, but just step into it. And start oscillating back and forth into your hip and allow it to flow through your spine and head. Once you're warmed up, support yourself. You can use a chair, or you can support yourself on your thigh and create a nice lower back lumbar stretch. Breathe and relax. Now you can support with your other hand the lower back and sink a little bit deeper into the stretch. Oscillate a little bit more, just opening up a little bit more the stretch. You might be a little bit wobbly in the beginning. I'm always a little bit wobbly once I sink into a new area, open up a new area, and stretch again. And that's enough for that side. And switching legs, sinking in first, taking a step forward. Be comfortable and sink in and back into your sit bones, oscillating your hip back and forward, really feeling the stretch in your adductors and in your hamstrings and in your glutes and in the back of your knees, and perhaps your lower back as well. And try to soften and find the articulation of your spine and lower back. Don't be stiff. And a nice stretch of the lower back, sinking in. Some more oscillations. And I really encourage you to find where is it that you feel like stretching, and find when you feel like resting and oscillating. This is your stretch. Don't try to copy me verbatim. Just feel into the comfort and into the stretch. A little bit of a rest here, catching my breath. Allowing my nervous system to wind down, and again, a step forward, sinking into the back of the hips and oscillating. The oscillation is important because it allows you to articulate your spine and your hips while your hamstrings and knees are under a stretch. So in fact, you're exercising a range of motion that's under stretch very gently and softly, and increasing proprioception through that phase. And once again, articulating the spine while creating a nice lumbar stretch. making sure your knee doesn't go too far forward. You're sinking back into the hip. Don't let your knee go way ahead of your toes. And again, sinking into the back of the hips, oscillating back and forward. Breathing. Always finding how can you be more comfortable. Keep asking yourself. And in the lumbar stretch, really you want to start the stretch from the lower abdomen and the sacrum. That's the emphasis on the hip joint. And all the different articulations of the hip joint, whether it's in the sit bone, the sacrum, the iliac crest, the pubic bone. Well, lost my balance there. And coming back up. Breathing in and out. And now, I like using a chair for this, just so I can be a little bit more comfortable. Bringing one leg up on your thigh and then sinking back into the hip. Sort of like a pigeon pose in yoga, but you're not on the ground. You're just trying to articulate and stretch all the different muscles and connective tissue on the posterior side of the hip. The gluteus maximus, medius, minimus, piriformis, all the obturators and internus and those lateral rotators. And then, same principle, try to create a small stretch in the lumbar while oscillating back and forth into the hip. Try to the other side. This can be challenging because we're stretching and at the same time we're trying to relax and move through the stretch. And resting a little bit and switching sides. Taking your foot, placing it gently on your thigh and sinking back as if you're trying to sit back. And same principle, oscillating back and forth, really engaging the pelvic tilt up and let it reverberate gently through the spine. And then when you sink in, same principle, sink in and let the spine wave naturally, either back or forward. For me, the spine sort of arches back as I lean back and sink back into my hips. And really trying to stretch the lumbars now and the spine as I'm going back and forth into the stretch. And I'm going to do the same thing just from the side so you can see. And repetition while done in comfort, in slow breath, is always nice. It's a meditative movement, but it's challenging as well. Now I feel more warmed up, so I feel like I can bring my foot a little bit higher up my thigh. And really sinking into the hip and then engaging the pelvic tilt to propel myself up. So there's minimal load on the knee. The power comes from the hip. The knee tracks forward. trying not to pass too much the toes. Another side, bringing your foot up on your thigh and sinking back, oscillating up. Relax your neck, relax your spine, relax your hips. Alright, modified triangle pose. So the right leg, or whichever leg you choose to emphasize the stretch on, will sort of come straight out and rotate a little bit outwardly. And then you're just going to try to have your belly button facing the forward direction, so sort of perpendicular from your knee. And same motion, sinking in into the groin area and oscillating up. This will be felt primarily in the groin area and the adductors. And switching sides, so I'm rotating the foot outward and really focusing on pushing the hip, the belly button, the pubic bone away from the groin area while oscillating at the same time. Stretching the adductors. I'm feeling a little bit warmer now, so I'm opening up my stance and sinking in a little bit deeper. And sinking down and oscillating up. Sinking down and oscillating up. Switching sides again. Now that I'm more warmed up, I can sink in deeper. Just sink in to your level of comfort. And pushing up. And sinking in, pushing up. And again, switching. Switching sides. And just shimmy your way up and rest a little bit. Forward bend. Let your head hang from your spine, breathing in, lengthening your spine, and just slowly coming up. And now that you're a little bit warmed up, both in your glutes and your adductors, sort of find a way to gently throw your hip outwardly, sort of swinging your hips, relaxing it out, feeling the weight of your foot just being thrown out. This will help you sort of feel into what it's like to letting go of these hip joints so they can lengthen gently and comfortably. Just finding out all the articulation of your hip and throwing it up. Start first with the knee, and when you start getting more comfortable, you can think of straightening out your knee. This really teaches you to articulate the hip joint while relaxing it, while lengthening the hamstrings and the knees as you're kicking up and out. And again, slow, controlled, but in a letting go fashion. You're letting go, releasing. Don't try to hold during this movement every single inch of the movement. There's a letting go here. No need to do it explosively. You can if you want, if you're warmed up. But the idea here is just relaxing into the movement, into the throwing of your leg, and just teaching your body to let go of all that excess tension in your hip and in your hamstrings and knees. And again, gently back and forth. And just relaxing into it. Breathe and relax into your breath. In this movement, you're going to have a lot of articulation of the ribs to stabilize yourself. So you want to keep your breath controlled. Now, since we are a culture that uses chairs a lot, if you do use your chair a lot in your workplace, it's good to reiterate a lot of these motions on the chair. So really finding your sit bones, creating a lumbar stretch, and oscillating back and forth. Same thing as we did in the beginning when we were standing up, but this time we are just interfacing with the ground through our sit bones against the chair. So the sit bones make contact with the chair, that makes contact with the ground, and you're just going to gently release back and forward through your hips, always on your sit bones, finding out where your sit bones are, articulating back and forth. And same thing, just with your foot on your thigh to create an even deeper stretch on your hamstrings, and oscillating back and forward into your hips. Breathing. Try to enjoy the slow, repetitive pace. And then creating a little bit of a lumbar stretch. And once again, stretching forward. And then stretching to the other side. Try to find out where the articulation of your sacrum and your hip bones are, increasing your own proprioception while under stretch, while in motion. And switching sides. Nice stretch on your hips. And sinking in. Really releasing your hips forward as your sit bones travel back and your spine oscillates organically forward. Don't hold your spine. Let your spine articulate naturally forward. You know you're doing it right when you can feel your head naturally bobbing forward and backwards, because the force of the spine is being traveled up through the hips, through the spine, and into the head. And have fun, explore the different ranges of motion. And don't lose sight, don't lose your awareness of where your sit bones are as you're exploring the different angles of which you can rotate your lumbars. Exploration is key, because you're finding out where is it that you're restricted and engaging in the stretch and that range of motion while slowly articulating the joint. Okay, so now we're going to just work a little bit on the transverse abdomen, on the hip flexors, on all the organs by sucking in your tummy and releasing it. This is challenging as when you try to keep a slow and consistent breath in and breath out, you're trying to not interfere with that natural breathing mechanism, and yet you're trying to engage in the transverse abdomen. It's going to be impossible to do it, but it's always an approximation. How much can you oscillate your transverse abdomen and massage all these organs and create more blood flow between the abdominal viscera and the hip flexor and the psoas? And at the same time, how can you differentiate that from the natural movement of the diaphragm? So it's a very challenging thing to do as you're trying to relax your nervous system, control your breath, and at the same time oscillate your rectus and transverse abdomen back and forward. This is very much an exploratory process here. And once you get the hang of it, try doing it under a stretch. And remember, what's contacting the seat first are your sit bones, not your sacrum. Your sit bones are pushing back as you're engaging back and forth in the abdominal motion, trying to keep your breath constant. This is a workout, no doubt about it. I actually started getting pretty hot doing this motion as my body temperature increased. Good to do that any time of the season, but especially in the winter when it's cold outside. It brings warmth into the intestines and all these organs. Yeah, and just going left and right at your own pace, really finding where is it along your core that you can get more of a stretch. And then breathing naturally. All right, and now just relaxing on the foam roller. For this particular motion, the foam roller will be between your iliac crest and the head of the femur. You might want to lean forward a little bit or backwards and find where is it that you're most comfortable. Breathing slowly in and out, and once you find that area that's about to be intense, let's say a 6 or a 7, stay there and just add your weight and relax into it. Conditioning your body to relax its tension is just as important as conditioning your body to be able to recruit tension. So we're applying pressure where tension already exists. So our nervous system can learn how to let that go. And then to the degree that your body can let go is the degree that your body can engage. So now I'm finding this spot right in my gluteus minimus, right there in the back of the hip, and I'm just trying to sink in into my spine and create a nice stretch. No need to go back and forth, just find that one spot And breathe into it. Now that your hip is nice and loose, you can find all these different articulations to figure out different ways to apply more pressure to that particular spot where you really feel like you need a release. And same thing, but this time below the head of the femur, so on the IT band. And this can be intense, so take your time. This is not a competition. This is an exploration of how much you can slow your breath and relax while creating a slight pressure under tension. So you're not trying to create excess pain, but you're also wanting to lean into the discomfort so you can feel the release. And breathing slowly in and out. And as it's releasing more and more, you can gently inch your way down towards the knee and find all these little adhesions, trigger points, layers that need releasing. And switching sides. Between the iliac crest and the head of the femur, you can pose in the beginning with your leg so you can get some more of a forward motion, but I didn't feel much there, so for me it's more in the back. So I'm going to the back. But you explore, find that spot that's a little bit stuck for you. And find a way to relax into that spot. This is a very internal oriented engagement. Trying to increase the amplitude of your nervous system. By sinking in and relaxing. Finding these spots that are a little bit stuck. Breathing, relaxing. And coming a little bit downward below the hip joint into the IT band. Breathing in. This is a pretty intense area, so be gentle with yourself. The rate of improvement here is not how fast, how much pressure you can put into it, it's how much you can relax into it. If you're not getting tired, you're not doing it right. Your nervous system should start winding down and you should start feeling tired. And tiredness is just a way for your body to enter that healing zone. All right. And a very, very important stretch to increase flexibility in the hips is actually opening the articulation between the scapula and the spine. The more articulation you have between your scapula and the spine, the less interference and pull you're going to have along the spine. The spine is one continuous unit. Whenever you have excess tension in your shoulder blades or in your neck, that will eventually affect the lower back and the hips. As the spine has continuous connective tissue, all throughout it. And really finding that spot behind your scapula. And this can be intense, so if you need, get a smooth foam roller. Sometimes I will put a towel over that particular foam roller with these grooves in it because it might be too much for me. So I'm just being very aware of being gentle so the pain doesn't exacerbate the holding pattern. You want to be comfortable in that discomfort. And I can feel already my neck starting to release as I'm releasing the scapula. And switching sides. Again, if you want more time, you feel free to pause the video and do it all over again at your pace. And relaxing, lengthening, breathing, letting yourself get tired, letting yourself heal. And now I'm just really leaning back, getting that stretch. Explore. This is your body, people. Your body. Explore. You have the right to explore all these articulations at your pace. And just resting a little bit and enjoying the space in my spine, slowing down my breath and just stretching my neck. Remember, tension in the neck will add tension to any other place in the spine. So you really want to explore this new range of motion, this new comfort, and a little bit of a stretch on the neck there. Although this video is oriented more for the hips, we can't ignore that the body is one continuous, differentiated, integrated unit. Stretching the neck and then stretching the hip. And one last thing I like to do is just sink into a downward dog and just relax into the hip and coming up. So really pushing through your hands and feeling how pleasurable it is to support your body through your scapula and then releasing down into the knees and lengthening up. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit, you can bring your foot up. So again, you're basically organizing it so your hip is releasing at the same time as your scapula. Very important. You want to organize yourself so your scapula releases at the same time as your hip. Of course, it's more difficult because then your body needs to approximate its resources. And resting again. Child's pose. For me, I decided to stretch out my scapula more, so I went in a little bit more forward and emphasized the stretch on the scapula. Breathing, relaxing. And one more time, organizing it so my scapula releases while my hip releases. Scapula releases while the hip releases. You can do this if it's too much for you on a raised platform, so your hands can be on a chair. The focus here is releasing your hips and your hamstrings while releasing the scapula. And that's it. Sitting in this pose again, if this is a little bit too much on your knees, you can feel free to put a yoga block underneath your sit bones and just stretching the hip flexors, the quads, finding all these articulations. We can do this for another hour if we wanted to, but time is up.